Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the 2023 Commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with Housing Commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating in the open conference room and via Zoom. I will call the meeting to the order at 6:30 p.m. Now I'm going to roll call. I would like to introduce staff and Housing Commission members present. Commissioner Campos. Present. Commissioner Merriman. Commissioner Beach. Here. Commissioner Pimentel. Commissioner Patillo. Here. Vice Chair Walker. Here. We have here also Housing Manager Tim Wong, Management Analyst Adam Patterson. Tim, would you please provide instructions to the Housing Commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Okay, so thank you, Chair Ona, and members of the Housing Commission. Welcome everyone to the October 4th meeting of the Housing Commission, and thank you for. Staff will engage cameras and microphones, make presentations, and respond to the members of the Housing Commission. For members of the public who are in attendance and wish to provide public comment on an item on tonight's agenda, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, for virtual participants, please engage the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. For those who are calling in from a landline or cell phone, please press *9. For those in person, please bring that to my desk. So that concludes the instructions. I will return the meeting to the chair. Thank you.
Under public comment, the clerk may address the Housing Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the Housing Commission under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. You are not required to provide your name or the city of your residence, but it is helpful. The Housing Commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the Housing Commission comes to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than provide general information. Tim, do we have any public comments?
We have no public comment.
First, we have item D1, a presentation on Project Sentinel.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yesenia, and I'm the director of our dispute resolution program at Project Sentinel. I'm joined here this evening by both my colleagues, Jacob Udiate from our Fair Housing Department, as well as Gianna Valero from our Housing Counseling Department. A little bit about our agency, who we are. Project Sentinel is a nonprofit agency with almost a half a century of experience striving to achieve equality and fairness in housing opportunities for the people of Northern California. We are the largest housing agency in Northern California, consistently funded by local jurisdictions and by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. We proudly serve 34 communities and partner with local, state, and federal agencies, community-based organizations, legal entities, and homeless prevention networks. The services in our San Mateo County Dispute Resolution Center. We do community outreach and education. We also provide for low-income tenants and mom-and-pop landlords up to 2 free hours of limited scope legal consultations, which consist of an attorney panel that we have. We also provide conciliation, mediation, also social services support for those who have disabilities or mental health challenges. We also offer multilingual assistance, which is extremely important. So we have bilingual staff and translation services if needed. And most importantly, we provide information and resources and referrals to our clients. Our San Mateo County DRC is what we call it. It typically provides information, including education on evictions, habitability, security deposits, rent increases, and neighbor-to-neighbor disputes, to name a few. So far, this year's projection, we have 205 persons served. Over 40,000 recipients received information about the program via email blast from our center. We also conducted 3 education presentations, 1 per quarter. We also have conducted so far 2 partner roundtables. And legal consultations and mediation are still building. So far, we have 7. So this was a new contract that we started rolling out in late last fall, developing the attorney panel, the mediator panel, and we're here now with 7 referrals so far. I'll pass it over to Jacob, who's going to cover a little bit about fair housing.
Hi, so my name is Jacob. The purpose of my job is to essentially advocate for tenants. I am a fair housing coordinator, and so kind of the first thing I want to talk about is when discrimination occurs. It can occur at any point during the housing process, from when you first see the advertising for the property, to when you're applying, to while you're living there, and even to when you know, you're leaving or there's a termination of tenancy. I work with tenants throughout every step of this process if they feel as though there's any sort of discrimination occurring. So what our department does is investigate fair housing complaints. The majority of my job as a fair housing coordinator is to educate, advise, and counsel tenants. We will, if we're asked, help with landlords or housing providers, if they have any sort of questions about fair housing, but you know, 99.99% of the time I'm helping tenants with fair housing complaints. Another aspect of our department is investigating complaints. We'll do audits, we will test, we'll survey properties if we feel or we're worried that there's housing discrimination occurring at these properties. But like I said, our work really is tenant focused. We will do some presentations to housing providers if they ask. But yeah, next slide please. So my job is directly correlated with the Fair Housing Act. There are some other laws that are supplementary, but as kind of our department is called, the Fair Housing Department, it's based on the Fair Housing Act. The Fair Housing Act was passed kind of right in the middle of the civil rights movement, and it's been updated in the next slide will show kind of some of the protected categories, but the Fair Housing Act lays out federally protected categories that we focus on. So here are the protected categories that we work with. The federal protected categories is kind of the umbrella. Race, religion, sex, disability, familial status, and national origin are all protected federally. If we have a case that needs to be filed as a complaint, we'll send that to audit directly if they're under these federally protected categories. California will add on these additional protected categories, where if you know they're not protected federally, we'll send them directly to the California Civil Rights Department, and they will handle the cases. Yeah, and so kind of as I was talking about before, the protected category, these are some of the protected categories we see the most. Source of income can come from someone being on a housing voucher and they're denied, or there's even advertising. So we'll say we don't accept, you know, Section 8 voucher holders. For disabilities, there's a lot of reasonable accommodations that we request. Familial status, there are families that will be denied just based on the fact that you know they're a family with 2 kids, or even couples. There's advertising for couples, you know, that housing providers aren't looking for couples to move in. And then for domestic violence or gender discrimination, many times we'll help tenants with getting someone off the lease if there was a domestic violence instance, or someone moving out trying to break lease because of, there being a restraining order or something to that effect. Done.
All right, so I'm the third department. My name is Gianna Valero, and I'm a HUD certified housing counselor. We provide a variety of counseling services for clients who are in all stages of homeownership. First and foremost, we have our first time homebuyer education course, which does give a client a HUD 8-hour first time homebuyer certificate after they complete counseling. So it's education and then the counseling. This HUD 8-hour first time homebuyer certificate will qualify clients to use programs like the Empower or Help program at Housing Trust, HFA programs like My Home Assistance or Dream for All, and finally also below my rate programs. Like I said, you also need counseling along with the education that is pre-purchase counseling. You can get pre-purchase counseling for free without the education portion, but without the education portion, you will not be receiving as we do. Next up is post-purchase. If you're considering about refinancing, want to know, how often you should do maintenance on your appliances, that's essentially post-purchase. From there, we're moving on to foreclosure prevention and mortgage default and delinquency. If you feel like you cannot pay your mortgage or you're already behind, this is the type of counseling that we provide. Go over your budget, go over your hardship, tell you your potential workout options. Another option would be, if you are facing foreclosure, would be to do a reverse mortgage, and that would be my next form of counseling. This is typically for clients who are 62 years old or over, for a government reverse mortgage. If it's a private reverse mortgage, you can be 55 years old or over. Essentially, a reverse mortgage is using the equity that is in your home to stay in your home. The reverse mortgage can be the only lien that is on them, so it does pay off whatever mortgage or other loans you have on your home currently. And then finally, the last form of counseling that we provide is credit and financial counseling. Please note that through all of the counseling that we provide, pre-purchase, post-purchase, etc., we do go over budget and credit normally. That is part of the counseling that we provide. Thank you. I know it's a short presentation. Our contact information is above. Our executive director, Carol Kwan, Senia is right here, with her San Mateo Dispute Resolution Center and the HUD Housing Counseling Department. And then finally, we have Jacob with their housing district.
Thank you. I just want to make a note, Adam, that, and everyone that Commissioner Merriman was the president. Tim, do we have a public comment?
I don't need.
Adam? No?
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so first we, okay, we have that, and then. And so. This item is open for Housing Commission clarifying questions and discussion. This is an informational presentation and there will be no action taken on this item. Commissioner? If I have a question. Under committees and subcommittee reports, the Housing Commission received. Oh, we do have one?
Hey, yeah.
Commissioner Merriman?
Yeah, just wondering, talk a little bit. The next, actually, we're going to talk about the new locations.
Or staff. That's a piece for staff, their presentation, is
So
attached.
separate.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Thanks for the information.
Okay, so we're going to item E now, committee and subcommittee reports. Under committee and Commission receives informational presentation regarding committee and subcommittee activities. Council Manager Tim Wong will introduce the item. This item.
Yeah, okay, so thank you, Chair O'Neill. This is a quick item, but understand that October 14th, we have the Bellhaven block party. And so it's more of a friendly reminder in regards to Brown Act requirements that we want to make sure that there are no more than 3 commissioners on site at a time. So we don't have a quorum or more. So what staff suggests, staff will be sending out a schedule for the commissioners, just to make sure that they can sign up for times to guarantee that there are no more, again, no more than 3 commissioners. And so, all these, staff will be sending that out on Monday.
Question about that, is that a change in approach?
This is the Brown,
I understand the Brown Act, but it being applied to social activities has really not been on the commission, I'm a senior member of the commission for 6 years. And notice, you can also notice it, and you're not, as something, as a public meeting, and then all of us can go if we want to, and refrain from talking about items that are before us, and appreciate the ability to go. I mean, it seems like something that would apply not only to this meeting, but any citywide event, whether it's the 4th of July parade or whatever. So it's very different from how it's been approached in the past.
Okay.
Is there a way to reconsider it?
Is there, can we ask why it's being set up in such a way?
I think it'll be difficult to do that because we kind of have roles that we're supposed to take on throughout the entire event. So it really wouldn't make sense for us 3 not to be there at any point during the event.
Okay, very good. It was more not have to agendize it and post it around the property. Because if we agendize it, it would have to be a formal type of meeting, public comment, those type of things. So therefore,
I mean, I think
there is
with that,
meeting
there's the
protocol.
yearly commission, there's a yearly commission celebration event that we also do. We go over to the Latham House and after the, the reorganization every year. So I mean, I haven't seen that happen. So is there some change that is bringing about something that I think all of us would like the opportunity to potentially go to things that are neighborhood engagement.
What is this again? It's so it's the block party, yeah, and it's focused around resources for the community with the.
So it's not as specific, it's not a housing commission specific.
So,
what I understand is conferences, retreats, and other public meetings, so that would be, or meetings or other, or social or ceremonial events, example, the Brown Act. So maybe we don't need to worry about that, because these 3 commissioners will be on site to already working with the event, which means that if we have to follow the Brown Act, if that's true, none of the other.
So it would be different, there's social events where multiple council members are at regularly.
Okay. I'd like to comment also that, I don't know if the funds and the support are actually, I don't know if we're getting anything. I think this is a mini grant that we're utilizing for this block party. So I don't know if that also has anything to do, but I'd like to second what you were commenting on as well.
Okay, very good. Be happy to inquire with the city clerk and we wish the commission is to agendize it or be happy to do that. Figure out what the logistics are.
Yeah.
has there ever been a logistics set up for a block party pertaining to,
Housing commission meeting
or just any commissioner engaging in any type of outreach?
It depends on how it is. If it's a complete commission doing outreach, I would think that that would have to be noticed because of Brown Act, because you have a quorum doing things. But if it's less than a quorum or individuals reaching out, that does not require noticing or falls under the Brown Act, because you don't have a quorum. That's good. Answer your.
Yes, and it feels layered, but it will suffice.
I will say it can be layered with Brown Act requirements, for example, if an email goes to all the commission members and all the commission members respond to the same email, that is a form of conversation, if you will, and that constitutes a quorum. Although there is not more than 4 commissioners talking about it at the same time, since it's been circulated throughout all the commissioners, that still would fall under Brown Act. So the reason I bring that up is you mentioned it's layered, but the Brown Act can be layered that way.
I respect the vigilance over the example you just gave. I just wanted to offer that as a student to be treated differently, and would ask for either the clerk or city attorney to weigh in, because it seems like a different direction, and a little bit more geared towards lessening administrative burden for staff than actually bringing commissioners together for community events. So like the priorities would be around connectedness and gathering, and I think all of us can be trusted to keep official business out of the social activities that we do. Thank you, sir.
Any other
Yeah,
comment?
So, it's nice for us to give an update, so far we have, we go to who we reached out to so far. About 9 to, I wanna say between 9 and 12 organizations responding to be there, from Samaritan House to Habitat, Greater San Francisco, Nuestra Casa. I'm gonna pull this sheet up here so I have it before me, but it's turning out to be great. We're gonna have raffles, so we plan to raffle bikes for children and some for adults. We plan to
Have
live music.
DJ. It'll just be a fun community building. It's a block party. It's a fun community event. We're gonna have food, we're gonna have a DJ, and then at the same time, we're giving our community members the resources that they need. Ranging from housing to disaster preparedness to, I can't remember exactly what else, but the point is to build community and, to provide resources to our neighborhood.
So far, Samaritan House, Bellhaven Action, NPC Ready, Bellhaven Empowered, the Menlo Police and Fire Department, Cummings Park, Community Church, San Mateo Legal Aid, they're working out their schedule. Amongst a few others here, that we plan on having table the event, and yeah, I think it's gonna be great. That is the update, unless there were questions or pertaining to if the city was okay with sponsoring or coming along forward with the subcommittee's work plan or event or the work plan. If I can ask that here, or no? Can I ask that here?
you can, that was what I was going to talk to the subcommittee about after the meeting,
Okay,
so. Okay to talk to you about that.
okay, well then that is, unless Virginia or Jackie have anything to add, that's it.
I actually was under the impression that you guys had already been talking, because I think with Brian, I had emailed him before we were moving forward with contacting vendors, that this would be talked to on the back end. And you would, yeah, I was thinking that you guys had already talked about it, because I mean, we have our logo, Menlo Park logo on one of the flyers, and it'd be nice if you guys are supporting us with, because right now we don't have any tables for the 12, 13 vendors that we're having there. And it would be nice to have maybe tables or tents or stuff like that. So I don't know if that's something that you guys are including in that conversation as well.
Yes, we have had conversations about that, and yeah, actually, the logo is one of the things that wanted to address the subcommittee about. And we open forum, but it was more, just wanted to relay that message to the subcommittee. So,
Yeah, I think this event has been spoken about for now some time, so I'm not sure. Are we waiting for the day up, because I think we're about 3 weeks out from the event?
We're a week and a half.
Oh, a week and a half, so, yeah. I was just under the impression that you guys had already talked.
we have had discussions, I've talked to Vice Chair Walker, excuse me, about it, and so wanted to follow up with her, but, she included the subcommittee, which is great. Just wanted to talk to the subcommittee about it.
Okay, I just wanna understand, because I'm new to this, so I just kind of wanna understand how the process goes if we were to ever do this again. And then kind of have an understanding.
Okay. Very
Thank
good.
you.
Oh, another update, Virginia touched on it, we were able to secure a mini grant through, the Bellhaven's, what was that, Bellhaven Action, Juanita Cross organization.
It's called the Bellhaven Mini
The
Grant.
Bellhaven mini grant.
So that's-
So isolated, but really.
Yeah, so that's one of the ways that we're actually funding that event. And it's not a lot, it's not like it's thousands, it's only like
Bellhaven community.
$1,500. So.
Yeah, this has been an interesting process, this is like
Are doing fantastic.
first time putting something together this, yeah, magnitude and to be able to build from what we started in June with the resource fair and garner those partnerships from that, it was. I appreciate what goes into outreach and resourcing, and I'm having a good time learning this.
That's it, so your efforts, sounds really. And I'm hoping to check it out, so. Thanks in advance, you're pretty, my heavily facilitating that.
And I think one more comment, I think Ms. Walker has mentioned it, if there's any chance of them having it posted on the Menlo Park website.
Have you guys, put it in the almanac?
I did, I
Interesting.
didn't sponsor it, but most of the legwork, because it started right off of, the resource fair, went into the marketing. Because what we found was that we had a lot of organizations from the last event, but not enough bodies there, so I made sure to focus a lot of my attention on getting it out. So I've resourced, next door to, the Instagram to, I went to the disaster preparedness workshop that Red Cross hosted last week and announced it there. So wherever I could get out and get it out, I did.
Is it possible that you can provide a flyer to staff and they can distribute to the commission?
Yeah, absolutely.
Make
I
sure my
absolutely
employer
can.
has it for residents that are here.
I guess we're gonna have to.
It's updated, so whenever you.
Okay, I can drop that in now. That's all from the
Yeah.
subcommittee.
So, this item is now open for public comment. Staff, do you have any public comment? Let's say, so this item is now open for housing commission, clarifying questions and discussion, so you guys can, if you want to say some more, you can. I try to be there. I have an event that day, the whole day too, so at the same time, I try to stop by about 30 minutes.
No worries. We'll put it all in there.
Trying to be there as well.
So now we go into item, F, F1, do we have new individual commissioner updates? Yes,
So it's conference season in the Bay Area. Friday, the Nonprofit Housing Association of Northern California will have its annual conference in San Francisco. And then that's in 2 days. And then I also believe that.
what is that, Commissioner? Which days are them?
The 6th of October is the NPH Nonprofit Housing Association of Northern California's annual conference. We'll have a host of different topics covered, and then 2 weeks later, and I can send the details to staff, and maybe we can send out not only to the commission, but also to city staff. I believe there's often opportunities to get planner type credits and things like that to further various professional goals. And that will be San Mateo County focused in a couple of weeks. So those are 2 updates about industry events where people can go and learn, and there's often opportunities for tickets. If cost is an issue for either commissioners or people in the community who want to attend, I can send information to staff about how you can try to get those there, and I forgot there. Another comment I just would make is that probably about a dozen housing bills that are before the governor will be passed. You know, the other till October 15th to sign them, but they range from major CEQA reform to more resources for affordable housing. And then also the California legislature passed ACA 1, which is lowering the voter threshold for infrastructure, critical public infrastructure, including affordable housing, from what it is now, which is 2/3 built, which is very hard to obtain, to something probably it looks like about 55%. So this is something that was done for school funding. And it is critical to cities and to housing, but also, you know, the cities are tasked with doing so much and frankly have very little resources in which to do a lot of things. So I'm encouraged that our representatives in the legislature, Mark Berman and Becker, are supportive of this. And when the legislature passes something, the government doesn't have to sign it, it's going on the ballot for next year. So that is something that I would love, if possible, for maybe I'll save this for future topics, but these have the potential to really change the landscape. And you know, they're significant for if they pass, they would be significant for the next generation of our housing goals. So I'm really giving, and the last thing I'll say about that is, it's also anticipated that there'll be a regional housing bond that will run at the same time in November, and should the threshold be lowered 55%, it will be easier for the regional housing bond to pass. So now we have all of these housing elements that have goals, aggressive goals, and these would potentially be some of the resources needed to make that happen. So it's an exciting time and optimistic.
So the next item is F2. Do we have any recommendation for future agenda items?
I look forward to hearing how the block party goes.
I wondered if we might be able to get either a presentation from the county group, overall, or, potentially, I don't know that it needs to be through the housing commission, but it might be great to have it be informational for the cross commissions, but it is, the regional bond, should it pass, would be housed under MTC. And is, bringing a new housing finance agency to this region. And they're doing a lot of education for local elected and appointed officials to understand how it would work. And I think, through the county, the Office of Sustainability, and overall, they're trying to do some of that education as well. So I think there are some meetings that are set up over the next couple of months as information meetings, so we could, if it's okay with you staff, we could really send you information and decide if you want to submit it just to the housing commissioners or others as well. Pretty important to use finance. Okay.
So up next is item F3. We are looking for staff will provide updates and announcements.
Yes, in terms of updates at the last meeting, the Housing Commission had asked to report back what the city is doing in regards to anti-displacement. And so, and secondly, they, the Housing Commission also had questions about a particular housing element program of redeveloping the city parking lots. And they, the Housing Commission wanted to know kind of some of that background information, especially how the city determined it would get 345 units out of the city parking lots. And so coming back to explain that further. But to start off with current anti-displacement efforts. So these are some of the requirements that the city has in on its books right now. The eviction protection, the just cause, the relocation assistance, and the 12-month lease ordinance. The relocation assistance, and that is actually through part of the state. They passed what is known as AB 1482 a few years back, and also I think the eviction protection. But primarily it is and the city does have a 12-month lease ordinance that leases need to be 12 months minimum. And so those are and these are just local anti-displacement efforts. The state, Commissioner Merriman has mentioned, state has been very active in housing related items, not only relocation or housing production, but also they have the Housing Accountability Act, in which if a residential project removes a residential unit, it is required to replace that residential unit. So you can't go from, let's say, an existing 4-unit development or like a 10-unit development, you can't go down to 6 units. It has to be 10 units or more. And it provides relocation benefits for those who are low income residing in those existing units that could be displaced. So there are a number of displacement measures in place currently. And next slide.
I was gonna, to Commissioner Merriman's point, more on the audience, I believe some of those eviction protections with state are getting.
Yes. So the state is very active in looking at all housing related issues, if you will. Specifically for future anti-displacement actions, if you will, this is the program. If not, this is the program in the adopted housing element. The housing element, city staff is still working on it to get certified from the states, but this is what the city has proposed in regards to anti-displacement. And it will look at some of these, a number of these bullet points are areas that the city could explore in creating anti-displacement programs. The city will continue to look at these further in depth. And we do, these need to be completed by, initiate by January 2024 and actually completed by 2026. Timeframe that the city has put in creating these, this anti-displacement strategy. In addition to the housing element program for anti-displacement, the city is also preparing another document known as the environmental justice element. And the environmental justice element is larger than just housing. It deals with access to food. It talks about community. It talks about a clean environment, which includes air quality. So it is, again, housing is an important component of environmental justice, but it is environmental justice. This document is much broader. And under the environmental justice element, there is another program that addresses anti-displacement. This is specifically about housing rehab or just helping alleviate some other household expenses. Wanted to point out that in regards to household rehabilitation, we already have existing grant programs with Habitat for Humanity, Greater San Francisco, and Rebuilding Together Peninsula to do housing rehab for low-income households. And also, just to point out, they do have a policy that supports housing development equally throughout the city, equally in southern Menlo Park. Is to be part of the city's redevelopment of parking lots, and Commissioner Pimentel had asked for a timeline. And so under the time frame, you can see that it is to 2023 is to initiate a feasibility study and hoping to start the redevelopment process with an RFP in 2024, talk about entitlements to have a completed development by 2027. And then another question from the Housing Commission, and which has been reflected as part of the work plan, is to see if the Housing Commission can help in the redevelopment of these parking lots to achieve a yield of more than 345 units from the parking lots. And would like to point out that this 345 unit figure is a projection to the state to show that the city is using parking lot redevelopment as one of the ways to help fulfill its regional housing needs allocation. And I think Menlo Park is 3,800 and plus units. So as part of the housing element, the city must show that it has adequate sites to accommodate this future growth of 3,800 plus units. And so redeveloping parking lots is one of those ways that the city is showing the state that it can help, or is showing the state that redevelopment of parking lots is one of the areas to help meet its future fair share of those 3,800 units. Again, it's a projection, and that projection is based on a assumed density of 55 dwelling units per acre. Next slide. So these are the sites that the city has designated as parking lot sites to help, and these numbers highlighted in yellow add up to that 345 unit count. And if you want to take a look at the draft housing element, each one of these sites is broken down site by site with an analysis. So, next slide. Next to site number 1, where you can see that the city designated the Safeway parking lot as potential for, as a future housing site. And you can see under HCD density data, AHO density at 55 dwelling units per acre. When we take the 55 dwelling units, multiply it by the developable area of this parking lot, which is 1.91 acres, that gives the unit yield of 72. And so again, city staff went through each of these sites, each of these parking lots to produce a projected yield, and that's how the city got the 345 units for that particular program in the redevelopment of parking lots. That all being said, again, city staff, the city is still trying to get certification from the state, but if the state approves or certifies the city's housing element, the housing element is basically a contract between the city and the state. So we have to adhere by what programs are outlined. So if we get approved with this redevelopment of parking lots program, then the city will need to move forward with the redevelopment of parking lots. And hopefully at a higher yield than what is projected. And so that is the timeline for the city for these parking lots. And so as staff, just wanted to come back and report to the housing commission to answer those questions that the commission had in this meeting. And that concludes staff's update in regards to that.
I have a comment. What about our possibly getting information on what's going on with that project? The Gatineau project with Pine Beach. We might have a joint meeting with them together, just to get where we are in the process.
In regards to redevelopment of
The downtown project.
Nothing has been scheduled as of yet. I think the city will need to complete the feasibility study first, and then, after that, depending on the, results of the feasibility study, then issuing an RFI to see who the interested, RFI, RFP, RFQ, not sure at this point, to see who the interested developers are. Then maybe at that time,
How long is it usually the feasibility study?
feasibility studies, I'm not sure, but I know the entire process of redeveloping a parking lot site takes years. I will say, between Mountain View, Burlingame, San Mateo, they've all redeveloped parking lots. And they have taken a few years at a minimum. It is a very complex process. And it's great that the city owns the property, and that issue has been resolved, but there are still many steps between, quote unquote, donating or leasing the land to actual development.
I mean, I think one thing we can do is when, we can ask folks when we have it on the team, when appropriate in the future, we would have, do their little presentation on items that relate to that and other specifics in it. So, have some folks from the housing element team come in when they're ready to present on, some of the items in there that relate specifically to this and some other items. That's something very interesting.
Or as this program gains more traction after, first to get the housing element certified from the state approved. And then as staff begins implementing all these programs. Yes, be happy to have them present to the housing commission.
Yeah, through there, have a couple comments and questions. I guess I'll start with the parking lot since we're there. Thanks for the update. It does take years, and if I could offer a comment, many years ago, Redwood City, they did an RFP for a site near downtown. What I observed there is that the city really took a leadership role with their, they call it housing and human concerns. With that commission, with the council to come up with a container of a vision for what they wanted to see. And that makes for a much clearer RFP process because you have some candidates who want to work in your city responding to something that has a little bit, that's bound. Sometimes I see RFPs come through and there's nothing really thrown out there, and you're gonna get a movie theater and all sorts of stuff. Stanford, or you don't have any idea what will come your way. So it can be challenging. It can mean reissuing the RFP over and over and over again to try to get what the city is looking for. So time spent upfront to do a little bit of that community outreach and alignment within the city is something I would recommend if that's possible to do. But it's exciting to see them moving forward. It's one of the biggest opportunity sites, so appreciate what the housing commission is getting updates on that. The other thing I wanted to just bring up with respect to the relocation, I'm not sure if the city's tracking on the Senate bill, the Senator Cortez got passed last year. It was SB 649. And that enables cities to actually work on creating tenant preferences for in order to help curb displacement. So this doesn't require cities to do it, but it's a tool that the city could look into that. And I think that would be useful to look into that. And what we know is happening in some of our neighborhoods where there's been a lot of turnover. And it goes, stretches community better. So many people living in the area. So just that's a tool that might be helpful in looking. I know that the individual development projects have had local neighborhood-based preferences in the city, and that's happened. That they were bespoke, not something that is just kind of set up and ready to go for whomever might want to work in the city. And so I think lessening the administrative burden of getting that clarified could make it easier for those policies to get adopted.
SB 649.
You got it.
Yeah.
It was just passed last year, so seeing we're just watching it go. It's the real time.
I appreciate that, you know, you're the presentation and pointing out the areas that where there is some more specificity in the housing element with respect to the development of the parking lots. Appreciate that from your efforts to put this together. I guess we're waiting to see if the housing element gets certified.
Yes. The city is preparing its third round of responses to the state.
That's fair, that's common.
The city is not the exception, it is the rule.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Congratulations on getting this far. Big positive and I think the progress happening.
It'll get done, it's just taking a little longer than I think anyone anticipated.
The document review process on steroids. I'm excited about that. Be excited to see that. And how the parking lots development go forward. I'm curious about what the responses that you neighbors. Not very many. Yeah, that outreach part is really important, kind of thinking through how the housing leadership can embrace it and set it up such that it's that it's likely to have community support. We done. So finding I'm debating on a basis, but what are we talking about when we're talking about lower income housing and people are starting by it. You said owns your house for we are education.
Any other updates? Okay, before we adjourn, okay, that's it, and anyone else? Okay, all right. Well, the meeting is adjourned at 7:27 PM. Thank you.